number 99 of the NLSC Podcast. Going to dedicate this to George Mikan, the great George Mikan, without whom we might not have an NBA today. And because of our guest today, I might actually also dedicate it to the great one, Wayne Gretzky. I'm Andrew, with you as always, joined by Ben, Arcane.
G'day, everyone.
And our special guest today, Sean O'Brien, the executive producer of NBA Live 15. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Thanks for having me again, fellas.
More than welcome.
Great to chat to you again, and been looking forward to doing this for a while, and we do have a few questions for you. Your time is limited. We do want to say at the beginning of the show that we can't lock you up for 2 or 3 hours like we'd love to do. You were very generous with your time last time. This time you are kind of on a tight schedule, so we don't want to rush things, but we will ask the best questions possible. And I guess if you're still up for it, send you through some questions afterwards to get some clarification if we can't ask them on the air, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure, Andrew. That's cool, for sure.
Excellent. Well, let's get started. Now, NBA Live 15 is coming out on October 28th, and we should note that, of course, that it was originally coming out on October 7th, and a few weeks ago you guys made the announcement and the difficult decision to delay the game, to push it back a few weeks for extra polish, and of course, kind of a risky decision because of some of the shaky history, I guess, to put it politely, of the NBA Live series in recent years. Certainly a risk, but obviously something you felt strong about to make sure the game was up to standards.
Yeah, it was interesting, the amount of people that either hit me up directly or that commented on our different social channels, thinking that this was the end of NBA Live and that this wasn't really just a 3-week delay, that it would actually be canceled, the series would be over, and doom and gloom. And when I did my best to reassure as many people or to correct as many people as I could, but the reality was, in a shortened cycle this year, if you think of when both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One was released last November, typically our games, our NBA games, both us and NBA 2K, will release at the beginning of October. And given where we are in our life cycle and some of the things that we're trying to do, we tried to do, or I wouldn't even say try to do, we had to do a lot, and a full 12 months worth and then some worth of work this year. And I think as we approached, really for us, it was early in the summer that I especially had my eye on where I thought we would land. And I think such an important part of, what we do in sports is, we create all these new features, especially within gameplay and presentation, and the entire package needs to be really brought together. So, if you're fixing, different fundamentals and different systems, or if you're adding new, broadcast graphics or new AI or whatever it is, the feature you're working on, you've got all these different features. And then when individuals finish those individual features, you kind of get to a settling point and say, okay, well, we're kind of done what we're supposed to do. Now we've got to actually bring it all together and make sure that everything, really jives together, and, the game is properly balanced and properly tuned, that there aren't the issues that, especially you saw in 14, but in just in other games, you can tell a game that really isn't properly tuned, and it just feels a little rough. You see some glitches or some issues that just make the game not as polished as a maybe a more mature sports game or a more mature game that spent the time. So we really wanted to ensure that especially coming off of last year where we really didn't deliver, that we took a little extra time to ensure that the game was a true indication of all the effort and all the work that we put into this year. And we felt even with 3 weeks, it's amazing. Even reading some of the naysayers, like, what can you do really in 3 weeks? You'd be amazed at what we can do with, such a large team when all you're doing is focusing on, tuning and polishing certain areas of the game to ensure that, the whole package has come together. So it was a difficult decision in one way, but given, and not to sound like I'm drinking the EA corporate Kool-Aid, but given our mandate of being a players first company, it's the right thing to do. And I don't think it would have been fair had we released, for October 7th, just to release head to head with 2K. This is a bigger journey for us, and it's not something that we're looking at on the short term basis. For us, it's about product quality and delivering that and building up faith with our fans that you need to take NBA Live seriously, and it's on the right path. It's an amazing trajectory with more things to come in the future.
It's a lot of the hands-on previews that have come out in the recent weeks have spoken very positively in that regard about NBA Live being on the right track, which obviously great for us to hear. Are you able to talk a little bit, again, I know our time is a little bit limited, but about some of the what it means to polish the game and fine-tune, some of the things that you have been polishing and fine-tuning over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think a lot of it for us was, the main areas we really focused on gameplay and presentation. So just that in-game experience. We felt that the overall game wasn't really balanced. Didn't feel like you could really play defense the way that we set expectations for yourselves. I think defense in basketball games, specifically guarding the basketball, has always been such a challenge. It's so hard just to stay in front of the guy you're guarding. We really spent a lot of time on tightening that up, making sure that it was a different experience based on different skill levels. So when you're playing a lower skill level, you still have that ability to go to the basket. But as you get higher in your skill level, it's just going to be that much more challenging. Maybe you have to call for a ball screen or, set up your man in a different way than you normally would, because the expectation is that you're a more advanced user. A lot of our stuff that, when I talk about overall game flow and, different cameras, how they're used post basket to show off some emotional parts of the game. Speech, making sure that all the new, the two-man banter that we did with Jeff and Mike was tuned properly. And a lot of the stuff, we're really trying to hang our hat on control and responsiveness and ensuring that, all of our physics-based dribbling, all of our right stick dribbling feels amazing. And then that animation fidelity is there that, just wasn't there last year, that's for sure. So that players are sort of behaving as they should. And they're performing animations that you would expect from them. But I think either more importantly or just as importantly, you get the control that you expect. So when there's input on your controller, the game or the player you're controlling is doing what you expect them to do. So a lot of that stuff is, it's really, I kind of explained it, I think, best with just like a sum of the parts thing. It's not. When I mention all these little individual things, it kind of just sounds underwhelming. But when you think of the sum of the parts and how often that impacts your gaming experience, given how often you're controlling a guy with the basketball and how often you're dribbling, how often you're seeing different camera cuts, how often you're hearing Jeff and Mike speak, all of that stuff really adds up. And I think a lot of it wouldn't be seen or felt in your first game or two. But as you start getting more hours on the sticks and playing, you really start noticing, I really notice that this always happens. And when I'm playing a head-to-head game, it's really hard to guard the basketball and stop, my buddy I'm playing against. And so those are a lot of the things that we did address. And I think that the overall experience, and, we had a number of different, sort of external qualitative assessment, whether it was sort of doing preview tours, having some guys from the community come in, and then we also use different types of what we call mock reviewers to help us better understand where we're coming in at. And it was pretty cool to see the reaction of people who really couldn't believe what we accomplished in the last 4, 5, 6 weeks of development and how the game really came together. And I think a lot of people sort of assume that the pace of iteration that we work under, given the technology we're using, isn't really possible. So it was really cool to see the jump in quality over the last month and a half of development to really get to the game, where we needed it to be and where we expected it to be for 15.
Awesome. So we spoke about it on the last time you were on the show. I guess some people just have it in for live, right or wrong, because of previous things like they've been let down in the past and whatnot. And I guess some people will be won back and others won't be. But that's really cool to hear that it's really changed, so much in the last few weeks. I guess we've seen some gameplay and whatnot, and hopefully there's more on the way soon, because that's what everyone asks. When's the gameplay coming? Yeah. But from what we've seen so far, what's kind of an indication of a good barometer for what we've seen so far of what the game's looking like right now?
As far as anything what you've seen, as far as how that indicates of where we're at.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say, well, it's really difficult to, we have this discussion internally, and I think, well, I know at EA anyways, at EA Sports, all our sports games, we struggle a little bit with, what to show, right? You think we put together these, what are called like marketing sizzle trailers, and it's really just gameplay with different cameras.
Yep.
And then we always hear from, especially from our, our hardcore fan, like we just want to see gameplay. And then you release that, and then people don't like it because it doesn't look great. So it's really interesting for us to always try to balance, different people's expectations and what they want to see to get a good indication. And what I've been trying to, mention to as many people as I can, especially on Twitter, is make up your mind when you play the game. No piece of content or asset is really going to showcase the game in a way that you're going to experience it, because it's non-interactive. So once it becomes interactive, the feel part comes into play. And I think that can be a difference maker in a lot of different games. And, the three of us probably play games in general very differently. So how you play the game versus how Ben plays the game versus how I play the game, I'm looking at different things. I'm expecting different things. I care about different things. So it's really difficult to put out a 30-second or 60-second piece of content that really gives a great representation of the game. However, what I will say is that I think that, in the, whether it's the behind the scenes videos that we're putting out or it's, the visuals trailer, none of that stuff is doctored at all. So it really is, those are game assets without any After Effects put on them, without any, I don't even know what you'd call it, any visual effects at all put on any of the assets. So it's just...
I think Penny Arcade calls it bullshotting.
Yeah.
And the Instagrammers call it.
Yes, there you go. So that's exactly what it is. It's just what we're trying to do is just showcase the game in its best light, to try to get some people excited and say, like, this stuff is in the game and you can pull this off as well. It should look like this in the game too. But really, it's about when you get to play the game, you'll have your own experience based on what your expectations are. So I'm excited for people. We're giving people an opportunity to have demos on both platforms. I think that's important because, like I said before, the expectation, we're not trying to, I would even back up and say, the people would have said, oh, we're done because we're shipping 3 weeks after 2K. We've got a longer term plan than, just the fall of 2014 and what happens with, NBA Live 15 versus 2K15. We don't expect people to really stop playing 2K because of the hope that we've delivered a good game this year. We're gonna have to prove it to people, and the only way you can prove it to people isn't through content that we're releasing on our social channels. It's really about people having the opportunity to play the game. We saw this with FIFA versus PES. It really is about providing people of opportunity for trial, opportunity to play the game, and then using our social channels just to try to excite some people and just educate them, and sort of convince them it's worth trying. And I think that's what we're trying to do.
I mean, I certainly agree. I mean, I've seen both games, and obviously we all know, and I don't think you guys make any bones about the fact that 2K has done some great work with their game. We're certainly not going to be fanboys about or haters about that.
No.
But with basketball games, you see somebody playing the game a certain way. If they're bad at the game, it never looks good, or you see an animation that you don't really notice when you're actually playing and invested in the action. So I'm a big believer in, let's see, okay, you can see some good things, you can also critique things, but let's see how it feels, how it plays. Yeah. And you spoke before about how you're looking to make that feel responsive and feel good on the sticks. But, you mentioned the demo, so I guess my inevitable question is, and we were asked this by quite a few people, do you have any more information on when the demo will drop for both consoles? Because, of course, you're doing the early access, EA access with Xbox One with Microsoft, but not PlayStation at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't remember if we've actually released when we're doing it or not, or if I'm supposed to, but let's just go ahead and talk about it. I think so. What we do have our EA Access program with Microsoft, so you'll be able to play the Xbox One version, which is a full trial. So you can experiment with all parts of the game, and that'll be on the 23rd. And then and that's just through if you're an Access subscriber. once the game goes live on the 28th, then that opens up to anybody. And then there's also going to be a PlayStation demo available on the 28th as well. And I think it's important to understand that, you know, there's reasons why those dates are in place. You know, EA as a company has a deal with Microsoft as a company, which gives us amazing opportunities, but also restricts us in certain ways to do certain things. And then technology and how both Sony and Microsoft handle trial versus, you know, a traditional demo and how those things work. They're handled differently on the Xbox One versus the PlayStation 4. So, and I'm not saying one's better or one's worse. They're going to be two different experiences. And that's more about, due to the fact that the two companies handle the trial, as it's called, is quite different. So you'll see two different experiences. I think both will allow you to get a really good understanding of the game, walk you through our onboarding to give you a better opportunity to learn how to play the game through the mind of Damian Lillard and the body as well, I guess, and then allow you to, especially with the Xbox One trial, allow you to experiment with different parts of the game, all of which is carried over if you do then choose to, you know, purchase the game and purchase it digitally. All that progress and things that you've done in the trial is carried over to your game as well.
Excellent. Well, we have the dates, so we've done our job. That's good.
Hope I don't get in trouble for that one, but okay.
I know how to do a sound effect bleep now, so
it's already the 14th, so I don't think it matters either way.
Just a couple of questions regarding how you discussed about the gameplay videos and how a lot of the fans have reacted, like when they've seen some clips and stuff, and how they respond possibly negatively in that. I think with a lot of the cases, a lot of the clips that we're seeing were raw gameplay was sort of over the shoulder videos at like games conferences and stuff like that. And a lot of cases it was a user that was probably more of a casual gamer and obviously not knowing the controls and not having spent many hours playing the game, so they were still raw in that sense, and because of their playing style, it made the game appear uglier than it normally is, or
Absolutely.
than it should be. But for instance, with Life 14 last year, when you guys started doing the playthrough stuff on the live stream on Twitch and stuff like that, and having someone who knew how to play the game and showing you how it's done properly, and that it did give a huge difference, like a night and day difference between how the game will look, and I think a lot of people's opinions did actually change after seeing that. Once someone who knew how to play structured and with authentic plays and all that stuff, and knew how to use it, that made a world of difference. In regards to the like little 30-second snippets and stuff like that, a suggestion I made to, I believe it was to Yao, the former community manager.
I remember.
Was have the video, have obviously demo, have a voiceover saying the purpose of this play sequence was to demonstrate such and such, using this type of player. So whether it be how someone, like, we'll say like a former Shaq like type size player, how they'll go about backing down and using their size and weight ratio difference against their opponent, how they'd compare to someone that, say, we'll go like a Dirk Nowitzki type center or something like that, where they'd use their strategy of, you know, that quick sort of fadeaway leaner shot that's hard to block, you know, sort of showing that, but having someone's voice, so that way it communicates exactly what's supposed to be done, and then that way it will hopefully eliminate the naysayers or the people who are just out to troll or saying, "Oh, I don't understand what was the purpose of this," kind of thing. So, yeah, just direct purpose in communication in that sense. I know it's extra work in terms of it, but it could help in a PR sense, I guess.
Yeah, I'm with you, Ben. I think so. We're going to go back. Like last year, we really embraced, Twitch and how that afforded an opportunity for us to speak directly with fans who are interested. And I think it was very successful. I agree with you. For us, it's almost become a bit of a consistent thing across EA Sports titles as well, moving forward as a result of that. Because it's something that we're going to do as well. The week prior to launch, probably the week of launch as well, just for that same purpose, just to basically to show you what good looks like, how. What you can do if you do spend some time playing the game, what to aspire to, et cetera, et cetera. So we're definitely going to go using that same strategy moving forward as well. And I think you'll see more, we're trying to, with our behind the scenes stuff, I'll be honest with you, the challenge for us is, especially this year, we've done so much to the game. It's really hard to communicate that in a succinct manner. So we're sort of starting at a higher level, focusing on visuals and gameplay, and then we're like slowly starting to drill down. And I think Twitch and just streaming in general allows for that opportunity to have that that raw, authentic interaction with fans, to really just show them like what the game looks like, as if you were just in the living room beside, on the couch beside someone in the living room. The challenge we have is we need to really, especially given where we were, really showcase our graphics up front, because of the resolution of Twitch. And, obviously games don't really visually look that great. It's more about just how the game plays and looking at that. So, yeah, it's going to be included in all of our communication. I think part of it, too, is everyone really is anxious to understand whether this is good or not. And so it's the immediacy of like, okay, I saw this, but I need to know if it's good. And then so I can move on to something else. And I think that's where, it's a little bit of patience is required. It does take time to put these videos together and do it in the right way that really helps tell the story that we're trying to tell. And then at the same time, especially knowing before we actually announced it that, the game was going to be shipping on the 28th. I think it did sort of create a bit of a groundswell of impatience and wonderment around like, well, what are we going to see anything? So I think, to your point, the strategy will be to be a little more succinct and a little more raw in what we show, to really showcase gameplay and talking to how you pull off different moves and what's important, and what are some of the strategies that we as the game developers employ when we're actually playing the game, which then, hopefully then leads to the next week, the next day, where people can actually, try the game for themselves via the trial or via the demo, and sort of see what they think on their own.
Yeah. Can I add further suggestion into that?
Sure.
With regards, if you do that kind of thing, that's an opportunity. Obviously, you mentioned, different play styles. You could use that opportunity as a tutorial base, but also I'm sure you have guys on your development team that have different play styles in itself, and so when you're playing that, you can also contrast. This person here plays this kind of style, and this person will play this kind of style, and you can sort of, in that sense, you can sort of show the type of variation. So people who might see one of those clips might go, "Oh, this game doesn't suit the way I play," because they're not playing it that way. So, again, adds a bit of flexibility into it, but yeah, it will add variation into seeing how different people play, and I think you'll get the full circle effect of everyone's play style eventually sort of being shown, or a larger number of people's play style being shown. So yeah.
I agree with you, and hopefully that achieves the goal of just getting people curious enough to try. And that's really all we're trying to do. Is it's not the hope isn't that people will buy just because they see a cool video or an in-depth walkthrough of something, but it's just to pique the curiosity, to give it a chance, because we think people will be pleasantly surprised when they actually play the game this year, and then obviously with an eye to the future as well, with all the things that we have planned moving forward.
Awesome. I do have some questions that I'm combining as well, so that we can get through some of them.
Sure.
But before I say that, I just want to say that You faked me out in the best way possible in the last podcast when you said, "Oh, we're doing some things with Dynasty mode, tweaking this, improving that," and then earlier this week or last week, what you announced the game modes and Sim Intervention is back.
Yeah,
it's like I'm reading all these great things, and thinking, "Oh man, I know it's."
I couldn't give it all away.
True. Oh, I can respect that. But I just wanted to run through some. Possibly a couple of mode questions, but mostly gameplay stuff. Because, as you said, that's been the focus. That's what getting the game to feel right. Some of the things that people are most interested in, again, how it feels, whether it's more responsive, especially on defense and in the post. That was kind of hard because you kind of get beaten off the dribble because you couldn't be quick enough.
Yeah.
And also strategy, the different offensive and defensive plays, inbound plays, that kind of thing, and how that's all gone into it this year.
Yeah, so I would say that. In general, again, our focus has been kind of like what I touched on a little bit earlier, is really a lot around control and, defensively, just with the changes we've made. And I think that, I'm reviewing a behind the scenes video. I'm trying to remember I review a lot of stuff before it actually goes out. We're actually doing a behind the scenes video right now on defense and a lot of the stuff that we've made.
Nice.
And it does touch on a lot we made such a big emphasis on just player movement while guarding the basketball, and you guys you play any game whatsoever, and there's flaws in any game, but specifically with player movement, if you really lose control defensively when you're trying to stay in front of someone, and if you have when you're guarding the basketball moving to the left and he takes too big of a step, so it's easy for then the offensive player to cross over and go back to the left, and you're beat right away just because you don't have the control to move in a way that you want to move. You don't have the physicality that allows you to, to really sort of body to body and have someone drive into your chest. And without that feeling like it's like a suction cup and you're drawn into it unnaturally, I think that I'm actually really pleased with how that's all come out. I'm really pleased too with how shot blocking has turned out. That was a long process with us when we added physics in any sort of like shooting scenario, both on the offensive player and any defenders around him. That was a lot of technology work, and then it was a lot of work on top of that just to get it to feel right. So what happens when collisions occur, the control you have on offense. Which players get pushed back, and my control then to block a shot, and am I guarding someone trying to block a shot, or am I a help side defender coming across to try to block a shot? So that last line of defense, for me, it was all about, okay, can I stay in front of the ball handler? And then if I do get beat, because either I'm not good enough or I'm not quick enough, or the player or the AI I'm playing against is just better than me in this particular situation, can I then easily switch to someone that's in the right place at the right time to then give me an opportunity to stop the play at the rim and block that shot? And I may not get it every single time. It's obviously dependent on who I'm switching to and how good of a shot blocker they are. But just having the sense of, well, that last line of defense is there, and I always feel like I've got an opportunity to make a play on the ball and stop someone. So I'm really pleased with how all that stuff came together. And I would say, like, strategically, we still have all the different offensive sets that are team specific. We didn't spend a lot of time on inbound situations. I think that's something you'll see moving into next year. I want to make even just the whole user experience when calling plays and situational stuff on the fly, make that really easy to pull off. Like we didn't spend, just out of from a prioritization exercise, we didn't get to a lot of that stuff this year. I think that's okay because the focus was on ensuring that we can do all those other things, and I think the layers of strategies kind of comes on top of that afterwards. So it's not like it's not there. I just, in my, knowing what I think we can do and some of the things we've spoken about, I know it'll get better. So I'm excited for the future and what that's going to look like. But yeah, I'm definitely really excited about just the balance of the game. And, for the first time in the live series anyways, and I'll speak to that, is, it's really you can have fun without the basketball. And It's still, it's still, I think it still can be better. And when we start bringing in online team play next year, and really focusing on play, off the ball and making those roles really important, giving you a lot of control that you're looking for if you're just playing off the basketball, both offensively and defensively. I think that's when it's going to be, really taking to that next level where I think we really have to be.
Oh, that certainly answers the question about the online team play as well. So I'll
for
don't have to ask someone. That's awesome.
You mean for the online team play for this year or for next year?
Yeah, a lot of people were wondering whether there'd be any possibility of it coming this year or whether it'd be next year.
Yeah, the strategy behind that is, I've kind of answered this question a lot. I absolutely believe in online team play, and especially back on 10 when we created that Adidas live run and just gave you a different way to play online team play and focusing on the individual superstars versus teams. And so I love that way of playing the game. I think that, for us to focus on online team play this year would be cart before the horse. And we really needed to, build the game, have 5-on-5 play the way it needed to play. And then also from an online side of things, really ensure last year's game, if you guys have played online, there was a serious lag, and it just wasn't a great experience as a result of that. So I'm happy to say that I feel good about our 5-on-5 experience, and I feel really good about our latency and lag issues we had from last year being completely fixed. And so the foundation for online team play moving forward is really strong. So we got that really strong online head-to-head experience, then you get the really strong 5-on-5 gameplay experience. You build your online team play. You do it in a way that I won't reveal, but I think is going to be really cool on how you do it and the progression that's involved with that. And then you really focus on ensuring that it's a smooth experience that really gives you an opportunity to do some cool things without the basketball, which I think is super important. So it's not just about scoring the ball; it's about doing all these other things that give positional play a lot more weight and a lot more importance in what you're doing. And I think that makes it fun for 10 players versus just the one with the basketball.
With some of the one-on-one situations, I've had a couple of people ask whether you can make players stumble and fall on really good crossover, ankle-breaking moves. And there was another one. Well, I think you've already answered that players don't get stuck on each other, don't get sucked into a defensive animation. Is that correct?
Yeah, you know what? That actually feels really good. There's no, it was one of the things. I keep going back to Live 10 because it was the last game that I did, but it was one of the things that we didn't get to in 10 that we had focused on for 11 was, it still felt like I had these multiplayer animation scenarios, and at times they look good, sometimes they even felt good, but for the majority of the time, it kind of felt like I was sucked into this and I didn't really have control when it happened. Sometimes that was a good thing, or sometimes it took me out of bounds, or it's very unsatisfying. So I'm really pleased with the technology in Ant that allows us to add physicality to the game and what that feels like. And so I think that's worked out really well. I'm really pleased with just how those one-on-one battles feel, whether they're on the perimeter, whether they're in the post. There's a good sense on offensive control and different layers of control with dribbling, passing, and then even defensively, just like, my ability to stay in front of my man and using smaller adjustment steps instead of bigger movement unless it's required.
Touching on the AI for real quick, we did touch on it on the last time we had you on as well. Things like the CPU not calling timeout, some of the late game situations, and auto substitutions. Any kind of minor tweaks there, at least?
Yeah, you know what? So we did. We actually defaulted the game to having auto substitutions on, which I think gives you an example of. Well, it's hard for you to know this, but they were defaulted off for a long time during development because the logic wasn't there, and so that was one of the things. End of game logic in general was one of the things that we focused on in the last couple of weeks of development. So that actually feels really tight. I'm really proud of the guys and how they turned that around. Just something like having the right players on the floor at the right time without you having to do it, for me it just speaks to the authenticity of the game. And it's something that you just don't have to worry about, don't have to control. And so there's a really good sense of that substitution logic and the flow of the game based on, time, score, foul situations, et cetera. And that feels really tight.
Big issue that I had as well, when you're playing in the post, obviously a big part of the NBA. Kind of a lost art, but still a big part.
Yeah.
When you pump fake, you lost the ball a little bit too often. Is that something else that's been tweaked or toned down? And this is one of the things people would love to have sliders for, which I guess is something that might be coming next year or later.
Yeah, the nice one. We'll slip the slider question in.
Sorry.
No, yeah, the definitely the problems we had in the post with 14, especially with losing the ball, and that was a little bit of a cop out that we had last year, just to try to balance the game a little bit, and we all didn't like that, so that's gone away. The slider question really is, so for us, sliders are a way that basically, that require a better understanding from our standpoint on what tuning mechanisms really impact the game. I'm sure you guys have experienced this in a number of sports games where you surface 20, 30, 40, 50 sliders, and you swear that like maybe 10 of them actually do something. And so we didn't want to get into a position where we kind of rushed that in there, and maybe the placebo effect worked, but in our heart of hearts, we knew that there weren't the right sliders, or they didn't impact the game properly, or it put the game in a bad place if the edge cases on a different slider just made the game basically feel broken. So yeah, we'll absolutely surface some of those things next year, and really get a sense of I think what even given what players are saying, what the feedback is, and if they think the game is too fast, they think it's too slow, they think whatever, I want to have more control for this or less control for that, and then better understand what people are looking to do, and then surface those things in the form of sliders, and that just give people the opportunity to to play the game as they would prefer to play it versus how we think it should be played.
Okay. And on the subject of customization, catch-all question, because a lot of people asked about, can you edit this, can you create a player, etc. A lot of that stuff's also looking at the future. There's no creative player outside of Rising Star, of course, as I understand it. And
yes.
Editing players, custom local roster saves, all that kind of stuff, next year and beyond.
That's a next year and beyond.
Yep.
That's going to be a big part. I'm excited about what next year looks like in general with customization and personalization. For me, it's the natural progression of what we're trying to do with the game. And I just quickly mentioned to you, and we were texting before we got on this part of where we are in production and Final 15. It's in manufacturing, and it's done for all intents and purposes until players actually start playing it. But we start talking about next year, and again, with the size of investment that EA is making, the team size, our opportunity to make such big leaps and bounds in quality every year, and what we're going to end up doing in next year's game, and already the brainstorms and initial conversation around direction for next year and where we need to be after playing some 2K and seeing obviously what FIFA has done and Madden has done and NHL, and learning from everything that's going on and what's really resonating with people. This is a fun time of year for me where we get to plan those things out and really push everyone to deliver what people are looking for. It's definitely a fun time of year.
Just a couple of things. Sorry, just don't want to interrupt Andrew. That's all. With regards to defense, sorry to back up on a couple of things.
No, that's cool.
Being a shot blocking player, I always I use it as a chess game and a strategy in testing players and all that stuff, and trying to replicate that in a video game I know would be pretty tricky, but the things that I do is try and test how a player is going to attack the basket or take their shot, and then the question of being able to adjust and read in the change in scenario. That's something that I've always wanted to try and see get replicated in a video game. Instead of it, a lot of times when you do a block animation, you kind of get stuck in that one animation where you're going to jump in the air and you basically can't do anything else except for just wait for that animation to play out.
Yeah.
But
sorry to interject, but we actually had a similar question about that with the locomotion system that you talked about on the last podcast as well. So yeah, I guess breaking out of offensive and defensive animations as well.
Yeah, and you might be able to, use your other hand or simply turn your body in the air to adjust, or just other ways to kind of react. And this also applies for steals as well. Different trying to read the scenario instead of just a one animation play out and then hope you don't get called for the foul in that sense. So yeah, I'd like to see a game really get into those core depths of a defensive strategy and not just one or two animations cover it all. So
yeah, I'm with you, Ben. I think the next step is, and I think we're all kind of striving for this, is how to build anticipation into gameplay and into the AI, whether it's giving the user the ability to better anticipate and better react through having more control of different types of animations based on scenario, and then also just my biggest thing is to use your same example, is the reason why I'm able to react is because I'm anticipating a play. If I don't have the ability to if I don't have the basketball IQ to anticipate something, then I'm more likely to be that guy who does just go up and uses that one sort of move to try to block someone, because I'm not really anticipating what this guy is going to do. So I do think there's an evolution there where we can get to a place where it's not like Street Fighter in the air trying to block a shot. But there is the opportunity for a little more control. And so we talk about that a lot. Like, it's the idea of like, do you try to, not quite NBA Street like, but do you try to suspend believability a little bit and give you more time in the air to have a larger window to pull some of those things off? And, how do we arm you with that sort of arsenal? And then it's skill level dependent, based on the player and, the player's skill level. And so I think there's something there. And I think that's, our ability to pull that off. And it sort of goes with, our overall vision of just the idea of, control and giving you control to do different things, and, what becomes contextual and what becomes, user initiated control. And then those different layers that allow different types of gamers to progress and, discover new layers that they can then, sort of, to your point, have the opportunity to challenge a shot, read the situation, and and go up with the right hand and switch hands halfway up the air, or initially try to strip the ball, but then still the time to to react, to try to block a shot if the strip doesn't happen. And so I do think there's evolution that needs to occur there. And with Andrew, you jumped in on the one question on just basic control, and that's definitely something. Another good example of what we did in the last sort of month of development was ensuring that those windows where you can break out of animation were there everywhere. And what we found was I think we did such a good job on offense. There was a time, probably about a month left in development, a time where you couldn't guard the basketball anymore because offensively your dribbling felt so tight. You could turn on a dime. And then as a defender, you just couldn't. We didn't provide you with the footwork to keep up with someone, and we had to change all of that stuff. So it was kind of one of those things where, wow, man, dribbling feels amazing right now, but I actually can't guard the basketball anymore as a result of that. So it just created more work for us on that side. But I think that's a good thing. Like, that's where those extra 3 weeks allowed us to, still provide. Yeah, exactly, man. Like, still provide that's a control that we wanted on both ends of the floor. And then the extra time then allowed us to sort of course correct, get that balance, as you said, and, still allowing you to have fun on defense, versus, it just being an offensive, ball handling dominated game.
Excellent. And the sort of second question was regarding, the future of like customization in terms of creative player and where that can lead to in future iterations and stuff. Will we ever see the people having the option to create this sort of own Dennis Rodman or Chris Anderson Birdman tattoos kind of style players, all the hairstyles, things like that? From memory, when Mike Wang was working with you guys for Live 09 and Live 10, he posted a video of the game All Points Bulletin.
Yeah.
And their customization level of the characters, and that was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Something. I mean, obviously, something a little bit deep. Maybe not quite that deep in that, but that'd be somewhere where I've been wanting to sort of see that kind of customization go into before, or into basketball games. So yeah, mainly with that, it was the ability to place certain tattoos, like choose an option, but also where exactly you want to place it and how you can overlay it with other tattoos. There was things like that, to the specifics in your body shape. So how big your torso, your legs and your arms shapes were, because everybody's body shape is uniquely different in that sense. So it was more in tune of getting something that was closer to that kind of ability for player models and stuff. So
yeah, man, I'm with you. I'm not going to comment because all I will say is that I agree with you, and I do think that's if someone can pull that off, I think that's a game changer. In my opinion, I think that's where that's where sports games in general, I think, need to really heavily invest in that. And we'll have to see what Live 16 does.
Okay.
It's too early to reveal that stuff. You haven't even played 15 yet.
I know. I've just been wanting to ask that question for about 3 or 4 years. That's all.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk more about that in a few months.
Sweet, looking forward to it. Is it right if I ask one more question?
Of course.
Okay. A lot of the stuff that I've talked about is in regards to creative tools, or almost to the sense of modding and that. Reason kind of why, aside from trying to hint at luring at another PC version of the game, but for me, like back in particularly in the early 90s, even to mid 2000s, what made EA a really great company was the ability to support and provide the tools to modify and the games, such as like what was done not just with NBA Live, but with also games like Command and Conquer. The ability to add custom maps and artillery and characters and things like that. So, and the reason why I was so big on it, and even if it's just simple tools to create uniforms or teams or things like that, because it helps give the game a longer lifespan for the users, and that's why we're so big on it, and that's probably why people like myself and Andrew and a lot of the other members of NLSC, it's why we exist, because we like being able to create those kind of things, and we enjoy the game because we all have that passion for it, and that. So that's one thing that if NBA Live was to ever provide the tools, even within next gen, whether it be some form of creation tools to do any form work in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that one, Ben. I think one of the challenges for a lot of that stuff is that it is actually not trivial to do on the dev side, to just unlock the opportunity to do those things.
Yep.
I think what we found, in my experience anyways, is that, especially, it was initially the jump to Gen 3 and what that did to our graphics teams and how difficult it was, and also the with HD television and what those two things did with regards to expectations for graphics. And it's obviously just got even further with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It's really difficult, and I'm not whining here, but I'm just stating the facts. It's really difficult to meet expectations graphically, with just what players look like, and then you move into actually having players animate the way they're supposed to. And so I think that's been the excuse I will give you anyways as to why I think a lot of those, user generated content tools have gone away a little bit, because I know at least at EA, we're so focused on recreating the world that we're trying to recreate, whatever the sport is or the playing field. There's so much effort, so much resourcing, et cetera, going into that. Yep. I think the cool thing, though, is I think finally the hardware is caught up to the idea of more socialization, more sharing of content, and I think coincidentally, I think that players are more interested in hearing what you guys have to say and trust what you guys have to say versus what we as a company have to say, and people understand the difference between when someone's marketing something or selling something versus someone just celebrating something cool that, whether I like a film I saw, I like a TV show, I like a video game, whatever it is. If I trust you guys as reviewers, or I trust your opinions on things, I'm more likely to go to you than I would go to, easports.com to get that, to get that content and get that fix. So my long story short, it behooves us to actually do that and give those tools out there so that more people who are, YouTube guys, who are website guys, who are just, social media guys in general, who have the platform to actually talk to a lot of different people. If we give them more tools to, to either just be creative on their own or to satisfy their personal or business needs, that's the right approach for us to take anyways. So I think things are, 10 years later, I think there'll be more of an opportunity and more of a need and a want for us to really provide those tools for people to generate their own content to use however they want, and I think it works for everybody.
Okay, and part of that too was also leading into like dynasty modes and stuff, where we had dynasty threads on our website where people would like to tell a story, not just within. So it was also a creation tool in sort of being able to do something along the lines of that. But I think with the video sharing stuff and photos that we can do on the consoles do help with that. So that was sort of the next step phase after those things. But yeah, that was my questions.
Yeah, no, I'm with you completely, and I think the NBA is such a great league with its players and the league itself, and how they use social media, how they use just visuals, whether they're still images or they're videos of highlights, to really express what happens with the players and express what's going on in their personal lives or on the floor. It obviously makes sense for us to go down that same path as well.
Okay. Thank you for answering those questions.
Oh, you're welcome, man.
Thank you very much for that. I know we are taking up a lot of your time at the moment, and more than we intended. Just a couple of quick-hitting questions to finish up on, if that's okay?
That's no problem, Andrew, for sure.
Fantastic. A couple of people are asking about local multiplayer, at least 2 to 4 players offline. Is that still possible?
2 players, yes.
2 players, yes? Okay. Any new camera angles, including perhaps an old-school NBA Live 95 angle?
No, we didn't do that one. We did. Our default camera is a lot tighter than it was last year, or a lot tighter than you see with the broadcast east-west camera that 2K has as well. The reason why we wanted to do that was we just wanted to offer a different perspective that shows off the player models a little bit more and just gets you down on the floor, immersed in the action a little bit. So that is where we spent a lot of our time with cameras this year, as well as ensuring that camera cuts that appear, whether it's post-basket or post-whistle, all that AI-driven, whether there's celebrations or interactions that are happening, that those cameras are really showing off the models and showing off the action like you've never seen them before. So that's where the camera investment was spent on this year.
Awesome. That said, if you did release a Live 95 angle as DLC, I'd play it.
That's a good idea. I'm going to look into
that.
I always forget to ask this one when I'm doing interviews, especially when we're talking about shooting mechanics. I forgot it on the last podcast, but the shot meter, we've seen that in action in some of the gameplay videos so far and the developer blogs. Is that also, do you get feedback on free throws as well?
Yes, you do.
Excellent.
So all
Fantastic.
shooting. So it basically lets you know, obviously not for a free throw, but free throw lets you know about your shot release and your timing. And then on any sort of jumper, it does. It's interesting because it's similar but a little bit different than what you've seen with 2K, where it shows you is this a good shot or not. So based on who I am, where I am on the floor, and then if I'm guarded or not. And it's there's different parts of the meter that shows off that part of it, and then you actually get feedback on the timing of your release as well after you shoot the ball. So you're always aware of who has the ball now, and are they in a position to take what's called a good shot, and then the twitch side of it afterwards too. Did I actually hit the timing window appropriately to give me the best chance to score the ball?
And just to wrap up, I mean, having put all this work in, you guys have got such a tough development cycle, less than 12 months and everything. How are you feeling about NBA Live, 15 and the future? How optimistic do you feel? Because I think I speak for Ben certainly, and quite a few people in the community that have seen the previews and whatnot. There is more optimism now towards the game.
Yeah, man. You know what? I'm unbelievably proud of how much we accomplished this year. I would, even if it was a full 12 months, I'm unbelievably. I think people people should be floored at how far we came in so many different areas. So for me, what that does for me is, and hopefully what it does for fans out there as well, is it gives you a glimpse into how far we're going to go every single year. And then if I was a fan, I'd say, wow, if they actually focus on the right things, and the right things differ, from the three of us, we each have a difference of opinion, hopefully only slightly, but on what we should focus on. But if they focus on the right stuff and have the same sort of jump in quality in these types of areas, wow, like we're really onto something, and we're going to make up a lot of ground very quickly. And as I said, EA Sports is very committed to NBA Live and the future of NBA Live. And we have a large development team that's very focused. And to me, most importantly, this is like my 2-year anniversary at Tiburon. It's been 2 long years, but what the team has shown me is that they are up for the challenge, and we have very lofty goals internally for this franchise, and we're kind of done messing around. And you guys know this just as well as I do. NBA Live has had I would say a difficult last 10 years, and especially the last 5 of those 10 years. But I would really say it's only been a couple years in the last 10 where we've had some success with our product, and that's really behind us now. I'm really excited about I know the vision, I know where we're going. I wish I could snap my fingers and just take us there right now, because it's a pretty exciting place. I feel like we've got the team to pull it off. We've got the technology and the wherewithal to do it. So, and having the company support us 100% really feels good. So, in a long-winded way, I'm super excited about where we're at, but I think even more excited about where we're going to get to.
So for the people who are saying that this is make or break and that Live is on its last legs, you scoff at that? You're saying that we're in this for the long haul?
Man, it couldn't be further from the truth. I wish I could share conversations. I wish I could share what I know. But all I can say is that's the furthest thing from the truth. I think we've proven we can build a good game this year. That was really what it was all about for us internally. And then, moving forward, it's just continuing on that trajectory and just building better and better things and games, as we move forward in 16 and 17 and beyond.
Well, there you have it, guys and girls. We, there will be live all season for years to come. But yes, thank you so much again for joining us. We really do appreciate the insight, and do have a couple more questions, but they're kind of yes or no things. So I'll shoot them through to you, and we'll see if we can just get your insight into that in a written form.
Yeah, for sure, Andrew. I'll turn those around for you real quick. So just email them to me, and I'll get them back to you as soon as I can.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, yes, thank you again. Hope everyone listening has enjoyed this. If Of course, if you enjoy listening to this podcast and all the others we produce, we invite you to subscribe to us on iTunes or keep streaming it on the NLSC. Follow the NLSC on Twitter at the NLSC. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/the NLSC. The NLSC itself, of course, is nba-live.com. If you're looking for the official NBA Live Twitter, that's at EA Sports NBA, facebook.com/EA Sports NBA. And obviously more developer blogs and insight coming right up to the 28th, right, Sean?
That's right, man. It was good. It was good to talk to both you, Andrew, and you, Ben. I appreciate the questions and happy to do this again in the future.
Oh,
absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to that. And again, leave your comments in the comment section below and in the forum. But till next week, I'm Andrew.
I'm Arcane.
And thank you, Sean.
You're welcome, guys.
For your time.
My pleasure.
And tune in next week. See you guys.